RV Miles is sponsored by Blue Ox. Chances are you've seen them on the road. That's because Blue Ox designs and manufactures the best towing products in the industry. Just look around. You'll find them on highways and campgrounds and anywhere you find people traveling through the great outdoors. From award-winning tow bars, base plates, and brakes to a full line of weight-distributing hitches, fifth-wheel hitches, receiver hitches, and adjustable ball mounts. With Blue Ox, towing doesn't have to be a drag. Visit blueox.com for more information. This week, how well built is your RV? A new satisfaction poll shares some interesting results that I think might surprise a heck of a lot of people. Plus, why can't you just buy a better RV? Why aren't there options out there for just like a really, really well-built RV? Well, there are. Our friend Geneva Long from Bolus, the founder and CEO, comes on the show today to talk about a really historic travel trailer brand that has had a rebirth and is so luxurious. This is the RV Miles podcast. Welcome to episode number 399 of RV Miles. I'm Jason.
And I'm Abby, and we are two RVers who have been crisscrossing North America on one epic road trip since 2016. Here at RV Miles, we talk all things RV and outdoors, including industry news, luxurious RVs, almost 400 episodes, and a whole lot more.
We've got a week to figure out what the heck we're doing for the big 400.
Get the confetti and the glitter out. Here we go.
We wanted to kick off the show today with this really interesting poll from the folks over at RVtravel.com. RV Travel, they do a poll pretty much every day of their readership, and they have a quite large readership, but they just did a poll that it has got a lot of traction in the industry, has been shared around a lot. I've seen a few other YouTube videos about it, and it is very simply, how well built is your RV?
Oh boy.
And they had well over 1,000 respondents to this question. And I think a lot of people are going to be surprised with the answers here. 35% believe that their RV is very well built. 41% say it's well built, but not very well built. 21% say it's built okay. That's about it. 3% say it's poorly built, and 1% say it's junk.
Oh.
So between the bottom three, it's built okay, and that's about it, on down, that's only 25% of RV owners.
Only 10%, well, 10 people think it's junk out of 1,000.
Is it? Well, it'll show actual numbers. It's only 7 people actually
7
out of 1,000
okay.
think their RV is junk. And I let me preface this here too with RVtravel.com. They're not an RV industry friendly publication. They're very, very critical often of the RV industry. And also, let's say that the RV industry has problems that definitely need fixing. And we certainly believe that strongly. However, I think this clearly points to, and of course it's not super scientific poll.
Wow, it's 1,000 people.
But it clearly points to the fact that maybe there is a bit of an over-exaggeration
Maybe.
of the quality problems in the RV industry.
I am going to play devil's advocate here a little bit.
Okay.
I would like to know what everyone owns.
Well, sure,
of these
but
1,000,
yeah.
I would like to know, are we talking entry-level travel trailers? Are we talking like, six-figure fifth wheels? Are we talking six-figure class A's?
I mean, I think you get a
what
big.
are we talking
I
here?
think
Like, what do they own? Because
their readership is probably a good mix, but there's no way
for
to know.
sure. But
Again, it's not a scientific poll. We don't know exactly what it is, but even if it's 20% off, I think these results are better than people expect.
no, they're great results. And of course, it is always nice to get a snapshot of what anyone in the RV community is thinking or feeling about their RV. Like, I don't want to discredit these 1,000 people who shared their feelings about their RV. I would just love a little tiny bit more information about what kind of RV that they own, just to kind of gauge.
I think it's not about that at all. I think what it really is, what it comes down to, is people that read RVtravel.com every day and would respond to polls.
Mm-hmm.
Those are people that are informed. and they know what they were getting into when they bought their RV. So they're not the people believe it or not, there are a ton of people, perhaps more than half of buyers still, just go to dealer lots and pick something out and do no research whatsoever.
Sure.
And I think those people are the people that get kind of blindsided when they've got a few problems because they're expecting, buying an automobile is generally a uh, pretty safe experience these days. 'Cause even if you have problems, you get some good warranty, repaired, easily done, good recall work easily done on most automobiles that are sold these days. Of course, it's not always the case. Now, the big thing though is the problems that people have with an RV can often be big, big, massive problems that
Yes.
are hard to fix, that cost them a ton of money, and that the manufacturer doesn't stand behind. And that's where I think the big issue is.
Yeah, I don't think that just because they walk onto a lot and buy something that we should say, "Oh, well, that's your fault. You
No, no,
didn't do
no.
your
I
research."
don't think that
They
at
should
all.
be
I
able to
don't think that
walk
at all.
on.
I'm just saying that the people in this poll are not those people. So
Yes.
these people kind of probably skew a little bit more towards, we're just talking about averages, and the group of people probably skew a little bit towards more knowing, hey, I know a couple pieces of trim are going to fall off and I'm going to fix that, and
Yeah.
I'm not going to consider, if that happens and nothing else happens, I'm going to consider my RV pretty well built. I think that's the group of people we're talking about here.
And they probably then skew towards people who have also done their research on what kind of RV that they want to
Exactly.
buy. So they probably also have an RV where they're probably not facing some of the issues that maybe the first time buyer or the entry level buyer is facing, or someone who unfortunately goes in and buys from the dealer and maybe trusts that Camping World dealer that they're going to get that RV that is going to be best for their family with that loan that's going to be best, that's going to meet their needs, XYZ. And then they get it off the lot and it absolutely falls apart on them. And it's nothing like what they
Yeah.
thought
I
was
mean,
going to be like that, the
yeah,
reality of it all.
this is one of the reasons that we have talked for several years and we're still working on it, of ways to really create real scientific data, and have the ability for people to do some serious research on the quality of an RV, the quality of all the different components, the quality of dealerships, all that sort of stuff. And
Just looking for that backer,
one day we'll get there. One day
looking
we'll
for
get
that,
there.
looking for that investor. So if you know anybody,
More in a moment, but first, this episode is sponsored by RVmattress.com by Brooklyn Bedding. Get a real mattress for your RV instead of the cheap piece of foam that it came with at RVmattress.com by Brooklyn Bedding. They sell real mattresses and all the odd sizes RVs require, like short kings, Olympic queens, and odd bunk sizes, different thicknesses, and more. Their mattresses are toxin free, they're made in their factory in Arizona and shipped to you vacuum sealed wherever you are. You just unwrap them and let them expand. They have a 120-night sleep trial, free shipping, and a limited lifetime warranty. But the best part is that the RV Miles community gets 30% off. It's the best deal they ever offer any day of the year with code RV Miles at rvmattress.com/RV Miles. That's rvmattress.com/RV Miles with the code RV Miles at checkout for 30% off. Ever feel like finding the right RV part is like searching for a needle in a haystack? Enter eTrailer.com. Whether you're puzzled about which product is right for you or how to install it, eTrailer has you covered. Their US-based customer service is available by chat or phone 7 days a week, and with expert Q&As, helpful articles, and tons of reviews and install videos, you'll tackle any RV problem with confidence. eTrailer strives to get their hands on everything they sell, and their website is full of overviews, reviews, buying guides, and tutorials. And it's not just RV parts, it's towing and vehicle accessories, camping supplies, and more. Head to the link in the description to get free shipping on orders over $99. Our guest today took a nearly forgotten 1930s aviation-inspired trailer design and turned it into one of the most interesting luxury RV brands out on the road. Geneva Long is the founder and CEO of Bolus, a company known for handcrafted aluminum trailers, direct-to-consumer sales, and pushing what a luxury RV can actually mean. Geneva, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me, Jason. Happy to be here.
The story of Bolus is one of the most interesting stories in the RV industry that I'm glad is really getting some love lately. Some RVers might know Bolus because they've seen the iconic shape, they've seen it in, old magazine photos and stuff like that, but not everyone understands why you chose to revive that brand specifically. So what was the moment that you knew this was what you want to do? Why did you decide to jump into relaunching a brand that is almost 100 years old?
Yeah, thank you. So Bolus goes back to the late 1920s, and is one of the first RV companies ever in existence, but also more importantly, the first riveted aluminum travel company ever in existence. So predates all others, and had a really fantastic history back in the 1930s, which I'm sure we'll get into more today. But my start with Bolus happened. When my family had a 1935 Bolus Road Chief, which is, of course, one of the original from that time in that company. Very long time ago, and restored it. And we took it on, restored it over many years. And we took it on a trip once it was completed. And it just inspired such a reaction. So everyone wanted to know, was it new? Was it old? Where could they get one? What's the story behind something like this? And something about that bolus shape and the bolus design just really evokes that story of motion and that nostalgia and that idea of what a road trip really should be. And I was just finishing up at Wharton Business School and looking to do something entrepreneurial. And this just hit at exactly the perfect time. And that's really where it all started. So we went away and we prototyped the modern bolus. And of course, even though the boluses were very advanced in the 1930s, they still were missing few key features. They did have ice boxes and telephones and all of those types of things, which is really fantastic. But we went away and prototyped the modern bolus. And when we did that, everything changed because we do have that monocoque design. And so changing one dimension means that you change every dimension. And we obviously modernized it for that modern adventurer. So that was a fantastic process. That was over 15 years ago. We've been building in California for 15 years, selling, servicing, and yeah, that's where that Bolus story started.
Well, let's talk about the history of the Bolus in general then. So what happened? What how did it come to be, and then how did it disappear?
Yeah, so Bolus started. Originally, he was a sailplane enthusiast and designer, and there's quite a history there. But we could talk about that for the full hour. But he was traveling places in California specifically to have these sailplanes, which, of course, are planes without engines that are just usually flown from the cliffs and soar on the air current. And so he was taking these to cliffs to launch and was looking for a place and a way to transport these planes. But then, as his family grew and as this became a larger group that was doing it, they wanted a place to be able to stay. And so that started with the RVs that they were building at that time. And they did first build canvas RVs at the very, very beginning. And then that shortly transitioned to riveted aluminum trailers, as of course, that was the material that was being used to build the sailplanes. And so that was a natural progression for them. And over time, that became a product that they sold as well. So original progression is very close to how an airplane is built. And of course, we still do build them in that same way, which is why you have such a unique shape, but also a very unique form of construction.
So when you went to revive the brand, I imagine there's a lot of options on the table for how you could have moved forward with it. You could have built something that is a little bit more mass market, a little bit more affordable to build, a little bit quicker to build, but you leaned really hard into luxury, into custom handcrafted. To talk to me about that decision and how you decided to just do this in California, do this in a way that sort of kind of bucks the rest of the way the RV industry works.
And it sure does. That's a great way to put it. So first of all, everything Bolus does is about lightweight aerodynamics. And so The shape is, of course, a commitment to that original shape with the front door, which is the only RV with a front door, and that tapered shape. So our tail goes to a tapered edge, very similar to a boat in that way. And that was the original shape, but also the shape of the modern Bolus. Like you said, it's built a different way. It is built where the frame, exactly like an airplane or a race car, but the frame supports the shape. And then the strength comes from the exterior panels. And in our case, we use 2024 T3 aluminum, which is aircraft grade. And we use structural rivets rather than pulled rivets. And that really creates that extremely strong exoskeleton on the outside. And the result is that the bolus is about half to a third of the weight of a comparable size RV. And what that gives you is then the ability to tow it with a huge variety of tow vehicles. And that was part of, something that we really saw as key is we don't want you to have to tow with a big truck unless of course you want to, but you want to be able to tow with a small SUV. Exploration should be easy. So you should still be able to fit into all the state parks, all the national parks, be close to the action, but have a really easy towing experience. And it certainly is. People sometimes ask me, what's your number one towing tip with a bolus? And I always say, just don't forget your towing because it really is. It's just a totally different way to do it. You can see down both sides of your mirrors. You can stop quickly. You can accelerate quickly. You can do U turns on a two-lane road. So it's just a really different way to explore. And that was always at the core of what was important for us when designing an RV. And then, of course, the fit and finish and luxury features, because we build such a unique shape. That also means that we have to build everything ourselves inside. And we see that as a privilege because that really enables us to tightly control the quality because we build everything ourselves. So, when you look through a bolus, we are building the walls, we're building the frame, we're building the exterior, we're building everything except things like toilets and, fridges that we're not in the business of building. But that enables us to use the very best materials, finish them just uniquely to Bolus. And overall, and as we all know with RVs, there's thousands of parts that come together to complete that RV, allows us to have such a high quality um, bolus, but it also goes down to the way we build it. So we already talked about our riveting technique. We don't use glues, we use all stainless steel screws. So everything is screwed in exactly with this idea that, like the 1935 that my family restored many years ago, that these modern boluses in 80 years should be able to be restored as well.
It's really interesting to me that so you've revived this brand at a time when there's a move towards EV tow vehicles or EV vehicles in general. Whether we get to some sort of mass market EV tow vehicle scenario anytime soon is anybody's guess. It's a challenge to be sure, but it's really interesting to me that this 100-year-old design kind of ends up being one of the better ways to pair a trailer with an EV. And you have leaned very hard into EV technology, and not necessarily in creating a powered axle, but into electrification and lithium and solar and all that. Can you talk about how Bolus sort of looks at the future of towing and where that might be going?
Yeah, it's something we're so excited to talk about. So, we actually just shot a video for our YouTube channel all about towing with the Tesla X, which of course we've been doing since 2015, which was a little bit of a wake up call that, yeah, wow, we've been towing with EVs for 10 years. That's special. And why is it special? It's all about range. And so, yes, there are our EVs that can tow larger trailers. That's true. But we need them to be able to go farther. And so that all has to do with range. And the biggest things that are going to affect range are both weight, but also aerodynamics. And so the combination of an electric vehicle with a bolus is really spectacular. You can get about 75% of EPA range while towing. So we just did some testing with the Lucid Gravity, for example, and that's getting up to 250 miles per charge. And that, you know, enables you to get from one charging station to the next charging station without any range anxiety, without anything else like that. And I'm sure others have better examples of what real world towing experience looks like in with other RVs, but it's substantially different. Even with other aluminum brands, you're looking at about 100 miles of range per charge, which, if you think about the type of typical travel day that you're looking for, 100 miles isn't going to quite cut it. But that 250 miles is enough to get for your destination. And, you know, both ourselves and our owners have done cross country road trips with EVs and with the Bolus, gone to places like Nova Scotia, from California, all with an EV. So that all electric road trip is certainly possible. And again, we're looking at it differently from maybe other prototype trailers that are solving this with things like e-axles, which only, you know, further increase the weight because of both the weight of the axle and the weight of the batteries that would be required to power that axle. And then you're needing a bigger tow vehicle, you're less efficient, and you're also placing that investment inside something. Whereas over time our EVs have gotten more and more efficient, and we look to see that again. You know, what does that look like in 5 years? The range of those EV tow vehicles are only going to increase further. And so solving this EV problem with a really lightweight aerodynamic travel trailer, but still full size. You know, the Bolus has a separate bedroom, it has a ensuite bathroom, living room, kitchen, so it has that full floor plan that you have everything you need. Makes it possible to get from those charging station to charging station.
It's I think wild to see to a lot of people to see this big aluminum trailer with a gorgeous wood interior and understand how light it is because it doesn't necessarily look light, especially compared to other travel trailers. I think a lot of the weight is hidden in a lot of travel trailers, but sometimes in the RV industry, when a manufacturer is aiming to make something lighter, the sacrifice then is quality and the types of materials that they end up using, and you're somehow able to avoid that. But I think that comes at quite literally a cost, right? So this is an expensive RV. Talk to me about who the buyer is for a Bolus.
You know, our we have a fantastic owner group that is very wide in their appeal. So, you know, we have our shortest unit, which is the Rivet, starts at 25 feet long, and that Rivet starts at 150,000. And then the Endless Highways, which I'm sitting in today, is our largest unit at 27 feet, and that can go up to just under 300,000 depending on specifications. But all boluses are built for that extraordinarily lightweight. We're doing that with kind of the opposite way that the rest of the industry is doing. We're doing that with really premium materials. So, for example, we have that all aluminum frame. We're using the aircraft grade aluminum. We're building it more like an aircraft would in order to be lightweight rather than how the industry might in terms of lighter materials that they might choose to use. And so what that means is that, you know, for example, the dry weight of the Endless Highways starts at 3,200 pounds. The dry weight of the Rivet starts at 2,800 pounds. You can tow this with something as small as a Jeep with our Bolus Rivet. And so it really gives you that flexibility of tow vehicle, but also of adventure.
It's really interesting to me that the sort of, for lack of a better term, boutique manufacturers like yourself that don't end up in the dealership network, are able to innovate in a different way, because I think a lot of people don't realize that the number one buyer for RVs is not the end consumer, it's the dealers. The dealers are making the choices of what to put on their lots, and you are outside of the dealership network, and I think a lot of the brands that are outside the dealership network are able to innovate a little bit more. And sometimes that stuff filters into the rest of the RV industry. And I think what's interesting about that to me right now is that I think we're seeing a lot of that happening in California with several different brands that, as you kind of alluded to, there are some EV uh, powered axle type brands that are cropping up in California. Of course, Lance has been in California for a long time. Do you ever see yourself growing into more of a dealership network? Do you think this kind of stays the size? Do you expect to, expand to lots more models someday, or is this sort of uh, the feel that you're going for? Is that this is a strong luxury brand that is going to be a minimal number of units that are handcrafted?
That's an interesting question because I think we've all seen what's happens in the RV industry in terms of the limited number of independent brands, certainly at the manufacturer level, but also at the dealer level that exist. And so for us, being independent is something so special to us. This is part of our family legacy. This is a brand that um, deserves to be independent. It deserves to have its own point of view, its own design. And I think that really starts to, well, I think it's always spoken to consumers, but it certainly over time, as we hear more and more consumers get, less excited about maybe some of the legacy OEMs, I'll call them, and look for something different. They are looking for, first of all, an independent brand. And exactly like you said at the beginning, my customer is my owner. My customer is not my dealer. I go to the shows. I speak with customers when they come in. That is our joy. That is our privilege to get to do that, to get to interact with that customer and learn about what type of camping they like to do, how this product fits them, why they chose it. And time again, I hear, we're looking for independent, we're looking for family owned, we're looking for owner operator. And that's something really special that is very unique in the RV industry, both in terms of OEMs, but also dealers and suppliers.
Well, Geneva, thank you so much for joining us. I think what you make is a fantastic product, and whether it's the right product for a certain buyer or not, I think it's really great to have companies like you in the industry to push all of those legacy manufacturers to do other things as well as standing out there on your own with just a really beautiful, fantastic product. Let our listeners know where they can find more about Bolus.
Yeah, so we'd love to have you visit us on our website, bolus.com. We also have a full YouTube channel where we go through lots of aspects of the Bolus channel. So feel free to give us a follow, and we'd love to hear from you in the comments.
Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks again to Geneva Long for coming on. I really would love to get a weekend in a Bolus. I think they are so
I
cool.
I loved them. I When I got to walk into one and I got to spend a little time in one by myself and take these pictures, they're absolutely gorgeous. They're up on our Instagram if you want to go see them. But this is one of those, it's a piece of art. It
Yeah.
really is. It feels like a piece of art, like a time capsule.
You just don't expect them to be as light as they are.
No, you don't. But it really is a beautiful piece of art. It captures a time in RVing that feels modern, but also feels like it harkens back to this time that you just want to take it into a national park
Yeah.
and just it's a
I
beautiful. They're
they
beautiful. If you get a chance to see one,
Yeah, go to the
please
factory if
do
you're in
it.
California.
Yeah, I can't wait to get down
The
there and see one
The
and see
fact
the
that she
factory.
said that they use stainless steel screws on the inside. If you've never priced stainless steel screws before, I'm sure,
I
but
have never had the pleasure.
they are very, very expensive, and they assemble this thing on the inside with stainless steel screws. It's just magnificently done, and congratulations to them, and thanks again to Geneva for coming on.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us. So now it is time to check the level of our tanks, and that is sponsored by our friends over at Liquefied RV Toilet Treatment, the no BS toilet treatment. You can find Liquefied over at liquefiedrv.com. Okay, Jay, what is in your black tank this week?
Well, I guess I wanted to talk a little bit about this situation in Mexico, and I covered this
Woof.
on the news last week. There, the State Department has issued a sort of shelter in place warning for Americans in a lot of cities in Mexico because there has been a rash of violence, mostly car fires and some blockade type things uh, of, from cartels because the one of the biggest cartel leaders was killed by the Mexican government with the help of the United States, and that led to sort of this rash of violence. There's sort of um, this unspoken rule between the cartels and the Mexican government, really, where the cartels don't mess with the touristy areas. So a lot of people are always concerned. I'm scared to go to Mexico. I hear there's a lot of crime and drugs and cartels and violence. And generally, the touristy towns are wonderful. There's no issue going to Cozumel or going to Puerto Vallarta and all these places. And Puerto Vallarta is one of the places that has seen the most of these problems in these recent days. A lot of it's cleared up. Um, but what I talked about on that video was mainly about Baja because we had an experience visiting Baja and
Yeah, we
had
were
a great time
there
there.
3 years ago this month.
Yeah, and we've also been to Cabo on a cruise. We had our honeymoon in Puerto Vallarta.
We've been to Ensenada.
We love visiting Mexico. There are some wonderful, wonderful places in Mexico, but like anytime anything comes up with Baja, there's just this rash of people, in the comments and where else that say all of these really terrible things, and it is so silly to me sometimes because as I mentioned in that video, like there is a decent amount of crime in Baja if you look at the borders, but borders are imaginary lines, right? And the crime that usually exists in Baja for the most part is in uh Tijuana, uh Tijuana. I said it wrong. I know now, right? Tijuana. It's not Tijuana, it's Tijuana.
You should not
And
hit the table as much as you are
sorry, I
because
know
you're
I got
really
in
gonna,
trouble for that
yeah,
last
you're
time.
gonna.
Tijuana and Mexicali and the other border towns in Baja. Normally, people that people that travel to Baja, what we did is, I think what a lot of people do is you cross the border in the morning, you go get some pesos and some groceries at a grocery store across the border, and then you make your way south. And in an hour, you are in some of the most remote land, and it is the Baja Peninsula is just gorgeous.
It's beautiful.
And it when we were there, it had you could tell there was like this big investment in tourism that had sort of happened pre-COVID. And there was a lot of like half-built resorts.
Mhm.
And tourism to Baja, of course, just virtually ceased with COVID. And we were sort of on the back end of that. And really, really loved a lot of the places down there. And as I mentioned in that video, telling people that, oh, there's crime in Baja and you got to be scared and all that sort of stuff, it's kind of like saying, expecting crime in like Compton and telling people that they shouldn't go visit Yosemite or the Redwoods, right? I mean, we're talking about things that are 1,000 miles from each other. Like there's just it is a huge. It's like if you're nervous about going downtown Chicago, which you shouldn't be,
You shouldn't be.
uh, but you're not nervous about going to like Apostle Islands up in Wisconsin. That's the same thing. Like it's a few hours away. That's what going through
Yeah.
Baja is like. It's a very remote. It's lots of wonderful beaches, and it's great. It frustrates me sometimes. It's not just about Mexico and Baja. We hear this all the time about places in the U.S. like Chicago, like I just mentioned. There are people that are always like, "Oh, I never go to California." California is very clearly in the top 5 most beautiful states in the nation. Like there's just absolutely no doubt. And the things that you don't like about California politically are not going to affect you when you visit California, right? And
No.
there's just a lot of that we hear about this country that I just can't stand. From people that are lobbing these insults from behind their keyboards, thousands of miles away, have never been to places and don't know what they're talking about. And it really, really irks me sometimes.
It's a big, beautiful country and a big, beautiful world.
Yeah.
And it's sad when we limit ourselves to the possibilities of those experiences because of what we've heard or what we're afraid of. And, we have spoken to some people we know that are in Baja, and they say that everything seems to be going as normal. Life is going as normal there.
Yeah,
And
the only thing that people should be concerned about with Baja right now, and there are a lot of RVers that are in Baja right now every
yeah,
year.
this is the season.
The only thing that they might want to be concerned about right now, and it's really actually kind of winding down at the moment though, is whether they're crossing the border right now.
Yeah.
And that might be something you want to hold off a little bit until.
Yeah.
But you know what? The State Department so Baja is two states. It's BC, Baja California, and then Baja California Sur, so means south. And the State Department almost always has a warning for BC, and it's because of those border towns where there's a lot of crime, and that makes sense, and that's just kind of always there, and it doesn't really speak to the rest of the state and the peninsula.
Yeah, but let's hope that the citizens of Mexico see some peace and quiet soon, because
Yeah.
they're the ones that are suffering, and will continue to suffer long after tourists go home. So let's hope that they see some peace soon. What is in your fresh tank this week?
Interesting thing from Outdoorsy, one of the biggest rental platforms for RVs. They have always said, and this is something that is just kind of never on my radar, that's always sort of comes up in the background to me now and then, that I just kind of can't wrap my head around, is that a huge portion of their business is events. So lots of people renting RVs to go to music festivals and things like that, and things that just like have not been on my radar that much. Some of them, yeah, like the Balloon Fiesta, whatever. But there's lots of like big concert festivals that happen.
Coachella.
There that a lot of people
South
are
by Southwest.
Well, this year they're saying is a very big year for them, and that reservations are up 15% year over year for several reasons. America 250, people wanting to take big road trips for that. The Route 66 anniversary, people wanting to take big road trips for that, but also the World Cup. There's going to be World Cup events in Seattle, in Vancouver. And those are places where already, hotels are either sold out or are extremely expensive. And they're saying that RVing can be about 60% less in those areas. But kudos to them, and it's exciting to see more people interested in RVing. But also, if you're heading to some of those places, really think about that in those reservations. We know so many people that are doing Route 66 this year. If you are doing Route 66 and you're thinking you're going to totally wing it, unless you're boondocking, I would be concerned, and I would be looking for reservations pretty soon.
It is going to be very busy, and so is the Northeast.
Yeah.
The Northeast is going to be very busy this year because of America 250,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. All right. What's in your black tank this week?
So my black tank is a little story that happened to me today when I was out picking up lunch. And it's not really the story itself of like what happened to me, but it was sort of the reaction of the people and kind of the disappointment that I felt of their reaction. So I was picking up some lunch, and usually when I pick up like some fast food lunch or something, I will like stop and I'll park in a parking spot, and I'll just check to make sure that everything's there, because I'm ordering for 5 people and that's a lot of food, and it's very easy to forget something. So I had pulled into a parking spot and I was checking, and this SUV came up alongside of me, and I was in our car, and the SUV came up alongside of me. And the woman in the back seat, it was an older woman in the back seat. She opens up her door and she kind of loses control of the door, and it hits my car quite hard, slams into the car, and she bounces back and she gets out, and what seems to be her older daughter, perhaps, or just an older woman that's also with her, starts to get out, and nobody seems to be saying anything. And so like, I want to check on the car, and I step out and I say, ma'am, I think you may have hit my car. And without missing a beat, like not even taking a second to consider it, she said, "No, I didn't. I didn't hit your car." And I said, "Well, I think I think you hit my car. I heard you hit and then her daughter or the person she was with said, "She didn't hit your car. I told everyone to be careful." And then from the passenger
We have
side,
kids. We know that doesn't work.
well, from the passenger side, here comes the husband of the woman who was driving. "She didn't hit your car. She didn't hit, she
How would
didn't hit
he
your
know?
car." So everyone's telling me that they didn't hit your car. Well, then he starts telling me, "Check your dash cam. Why don't you just go check your dash cam?" He says something like, "How would you have even heard it? You were inside your car." And I was like, "Are you implying that I wouldn't have heard if she'd hit the car?" Whatever.
You clearly would. Like, I think we've all
Look.
been in a car when somebody's hit it.
Generally, when,
You hear. I
look,
mean,
this is the second time in a week that someone has hit my car and basically blamed me for the reason that the car was hit. Mistakes happen. Look, we get into parking spots and parking spots can be tiny. And sometimes, like this was an older woman and she lost control of the heavy car door. That is totally understandable. I checked my dash cam after, they
this
walked
is a
off.
side because we have like the 360
Yeah,
camera.
we
So
have
use
the
the side
360
camera.
cameras all around the car. And they just kept yelling at me to check my dash cam. "She never hit your car." They just yelled at me the whole time as they were walking into the restaurant. They just yelled at me. And I was like, "Okay, sure, whatever, checked the dash cam." And yeah, sure enough, you can see her open the door. You can see it hit the car and you can see her car door bounce back. And yeah, sure enough, I have, a scratch in the door or in the car where she hit it. And that's all fine. The point of this whole story, there's nothing, it's not even worth an insurance claim. It's nothing. It is the fact that like the human to human interaction is that the first response is to not like, there was not even a second of consideration to even think about the fact that maybe, just maybe she hit the car. There was never an like, "Oh my goodness, did I really? Oh, I'm so sorry." Or "I didn't even notice." Or "Oh, can we look at the car? I'm so sorry that I may have done that." There was never a thought. It was absolutely certain that I was wrong. I was lying. I could never have heard that because I was sitting in my car. How could I have heard such a thing? And I am blown away by the way that we react to one another because I have been in that situation. I remember very distinctly one time, Jack and I were parked in a spot and Jack got out. And it seemed like in that moment, I thought that he hit the person next to us. I thought that he hit their car. And I saw that the person was sitting in there. And I said to Jack, "Jack, I think you just hit their car." And he said, "I don't know. I think maybe I did." And I said, "Well, I think you did." And I walked over to the driver's side and I said, "Excuse me, I'm so sorry. I think my son may have just hit your car." And he said, "Oh, really?" And I said, "Yes." And, cause he was in there listening to music and whatever. And I said, and he got out and I said, "Can we check?" And I said, "I just want to make sure everything's okay." And like, because you want to take responsibility for the fact that like, you think you may have done damage to someone else's car. And like, and if we hadn't seen it and that man had gotten out and said that Jack had done that, the first thing I would have done is said, "Oh my goodness, yes, let's check, please. I'm so sorry that we didn't notice that had happened." Like a little kindness just goes a really, really long way. And there was absolutely zero kindness at all. Not even a consideration. It was absolutely that they were just 100%.
Not even like stopping to think like,
No.
did I?
No,
I'm not sure. Like,
and at the end of the day, it was just about like, if they had said anything back to me, obviously we would have just checked and it would have been like, "You know what? Everything looks fine. It's just a tiny little scratch. It's not even worth an insurance claim. I'm so sorry that happened. Hey, accidents happen. Have a great day. You have a great day." We all move on. Sometimes I just get really disappointed in the way that people interact with one another as strangers. If we can just all offer each other just a little bit of kindness and grace, and not be so quick to judge. That would be great. It'd be nice.
What's in your fresh tank this week?
So my fresh tank is a book I want to recommend, highly recommend, and it was part of our Mile Marker book club. Mile Marker, as you know, is our membership community. It's $7 a month or $70 a year. All of the money stays right here in RV Miles. And this is one of the perks, one of the ways that we say thank you. And it's one of my absolute favorite things that we do with Mile Markers. It's a book club that we do every other month. So we have lots and lots of time to read the book. We don't have to feel stressed to get it done and read every month. And this Mile Marker book club, we read Lassoing the Sun, A Year in America's National Parks by Mark Woods. And I went into this with an open heart, but I didn't expect to love this book as much as I did. And I really think that Mark Woods did an incredible job of not only weaving his personal memoir, but weaving the story of each park he went to. He went to a different park every month, weaving the story of the park, the trials that that individual park was facing, along with the people that he met in those parks and their personal stories and connections to each one of those parks. And it is beautiful. It's a beautiful story about a personal life in a moment in time up against a parks. And it was written in 2011, so it's kind of coming up onto the heels of the National Park's 100th anniversary. And it's just really, really lovely. I read it by listening to it. So it's an audiobook, which is how I highly recommend it. That's a really wonderful way to do this book. I really, really recommend it. We talked for an hour and a half about this book. That was how engaged we all were. There were just so many wonderful quotes and moments and things to talk about. And as RVers, we've all gone to so many different places that Mark had gone to, and he left enough empty space in this book for us to fill in the gaps with our own experiences. I really want to recommend this to you, and I think it would be a lovely book to listen to on a travel day with your travel partner and to have that experience together. I hope Jason will go and listen to it. I've really highly recommended it to him as well. So please go pick it up and listen to it. And of course, if you would like to become a Mile Marker and join us for April's Mile Marker Book Club, you can just go to rvmiles.com/milemarkers. It's $7 a month or $70 for the year. And again, all that money stays right here and supports the work we do at RV Miles.
That's it for this week's episode of the RV Miles podcast.
Yes, it is. Thank you so much for joining us. Do not forget that Homecoming, our yearly rally, is coming up October 7th through the 11th. We would love to see you there. Tickets are going to go on sale April 1st. So mark that date because we don't open up a lot of tickets. We like to keep this really small and intimate. But until next week, friends, please stay safe, stay healthy, go become a Mile Marker and join our book club and keep logging those RV miles.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.